Season 1 of Upload was one of my biggest surprises of that year, but is Season 2 just as good? Let's talk about it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I was so excited for this season of Upload. It's unlike any other show on TV. It just dropped on Amazon today, and we're going to talk about it. I need you in the comments down below, and if you like this review and you want to support this channel, the thumbs up is the best way to do that because, you know, YouTube and the algorithm. So picking up immediately after that huge cliffhanger at the end of Season 1, Nathan deals with his rich, obsessive girlfriend's decision to upload to his heaven so they can be together forever, and I mean literally forever. Meanwhile, Nora is hiding out with the anti-technology Luds, investigating the conspiracy that led to Nathan's murder. Their relationship, while always tricky, given that one of them is alive while the other one isn't, is more precarious than ever. And as we know, this comes to us from Greg Daniels, who brought us the likes of The Office and more recently Space Force. Now, off the bat, this is my favorite of his two new shows. I like this one way more than Space Force, at least Season 1. Did I like Season 2 as much? Before I get into that, as always, we're starting with the rating for this show, TV mature. There's a little sex and nudity in there, profanity, some conversations that definitely aren't for kids. Now, I will say, overall, this would make for a fun family show, but it's not one you want your younger kids to be watching because there are those things in there that make it TVMA. Definitely not as mature as, say, a show on HBO, but y'all saw Season 1. You know exactly what you're getting. Your question to me is, Austin, is Season 2 worth watching? My simple answer is yes, but I do have some things to say about the beginning of this season, kind of starting out on Nora's side of things. This story where she is hanging out with the Luds, trying to figure out how we can essentially take down the system. The show has kind of morphed into something that I didn't expect absolutely at the beginning of Season 1, and obviously you have how that ties into Nathan, his journey in this virtual afterlife, what's going on with him right now, and the fact that his girlfriend Ingrid just wants to be with him. First two episodes, we're not spending a ton of time in this virtual world that we know and love. It's a lot of Nora and kind of her journey with this organization in the woods. They're kind of cut off from the world. She's forming a new sort of relationship, actually multiple relationships, but her attempts to kind of infiltrate and get herself back into where she was in Season 1. Once we got there, I was much happier with where this season was, but in my opinion, Season 2 gets off to a slow start. I just wasn't really feeling, especially the first episode of this season. It felt so drastically different than where we were in Season 1, and maybe it's because I just rewatched the end of Season 1. We get that crazy cliffhanger, and we're not entirely addressing the stakes of this situation, even though we are given the situation. Now, where these characters go, how it develops, that's when Season 2 starts to get more interesting. And by the end of the season, I'm sitting back thinking, wow, this is way more complex. There were so many plot points that came about that I never expected, and you're learning so much about these characters. The one I want to start with, though, may be a surprise to you, and that is Ingrid. There is a storyline in Season 2 that was touched on in Season 1, but she is all about starting a family, having a kid. And there's one episode in Season 2 that just had me in the feels heavily. If you've ever seen Rick and Morty, it felt like the episode where Morty lives out his entire life. I won't go any further than that, but they're taking advantage of this technology here and giving us a great story point, a great storyline, and one that fleshes out this character that was one thing in Season 1, and now she is so much more than I ever imagined she could be. Her relationship with Nathan is obviously one of the pillars of Season 2. But Nathan's in a place right now, he honestly feels a bit lost. Nora is gone. Someone takes the avatar of Nora at the beginning of this season, so he's literally seeing her, but not actually seeing her and getting to have a conversation with her. So his heart is a little more on the broken side than, of course, having to deal with the girlfriend that he doesn't really want to deal with at the beginning of this season. It's not all going smooth for him. You also have his relationship with Luke, which has developed into a fantastic relationship. Speaking of Luke, just hitting on the highs for his character this season. My favorite thing, his dynamic with Alicia. The dreams that he is having surrounding Alicia, and then what they do to his dreams in this virtual world, and those moments, especially when we get to the end of the season. There's actually a bit of a post-credit scene after episode 7. Those were some of the stupidest and funniest moments. It's like, that's the kind of thing I love about Upload, is you're able to focus on this digital heaven, do things that we never imagined we could do in a TV show. I think that's one of the brilliant things about Greg Daniels and what he brings, especially to a concept like this. Again, I've said it 1,000 times. The Office is one of my favorite shows of all time. Space Force, it's trying. I think Upload is closer to The Office than Space Force, but they don't all have to be the same thing. This is distinctly different than anything I have seen, especially on Amazon, and I'm really getting to know and love these characters. And after the way that season 2 wraps up, I am dying for more, because like I said, after that slow start, we get into episode 3 and things start to shift. There's a bit of conspiracy at play. You also have the Luds in their minds trying to do the right thing, but the way that they're going about it, the execution of that, it's something that Nora begins to notice, and there are a couple of strained relationships there that lead Nora kind of back to the world that she used to know. Now, the way that she gets there is a little bit up and down, but once we are there, and essentially, and I hate to say, well, we go back to what we loved about season 1, and that's where the show gets good. That is the case, especially when episode 3 hits. That's when I fell in love with this season. But at the same time, you are creating new storylines for these characters that are interesting. And the way Nathan gets in on the action, the stakes are getting a lot higher. You're bringing us new elements to this virtual world, from the occasional gag, the awesome visual. Do I purchase these muscles to make myself look better? We can read thoughts of certain people in this virtual world. That's a story point that becomes extremely interesting, because you're also learning more about how Nathan got here in the first place, and that's a big part of that conspiracy as to the why all of that starts. And I know we mentioned the character of Ingrid. There's also a really nice storyline with someone else that is involved with her venture into the virtual world, and I thought that was funny. Nathan makes a drastic decision, one that leaves us on edge. I believe it's an even bigger cliffhanger than season 1, so if you don't like cliffhangers, you're probably not going to be happy, but it's a massive cliffhanger. Now, in terms of the emotional impact and the emotional resonance that we're building up to throughout the season, we do get a handful of moments in the finale that I'm like, all right, this is everything I wanted. I was so happy. But again, you're left with something that makes you think season 3 could be even crazier. I also just love the filmmaking style. Quirky, fun, upbeat. It does get way more emotional than I expected this season, but it always keeps that charm. And the humor, I thought the humor was really good. You know and love these characters. It's not like laugh-out-loud humor. At times, it's ridiculous humor, but I think it works in a show like this way more than some of the other shows that we've already referenced. Before I give you my score, if you like this review and you want to support this channel, the best way to do that is a thumbs up, but also leave your comments down below. Yes, I am wearing glasses now. I have to. I have destroyed my eyes by binge watching so many things, so we're working on that. But here we go. While it gets off to a slower start, the series begins to flourish around the halfway point of season 2. There are unexpected emotions and hilarious moments, and the cliffhanger will leave you craving more. I'm going at 80% with my score. I am so glad this show again started to flourish in the midst of season 2, and now I'm so excited to see what else we get from this universe, from this world. The idea of a virtual afterlife is super cool, and Robbie Amell, I mean, this guy, he's a good leading man, and I think the cast overall is super fun to watch. So leave your thoughts down below. Appreciate you for watching. I'll see you soon.